evening. I'm gonna cook up some cabbage stew tonight. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. However, we have a head of cabbage here, and we're all inside. And it's raining outside, so I figure I'll give it a run here. I've had a couple people ask me like, how do you enjoy cooking? I find it really laborious, but I think the number one thing is you need a sharp knife. All right. So first things first, you're gonna want to sharpen your knife. You can buy one of these things at the Target or at Fonte's or really anywhere, Amazon, and you just want to rinse it off after you do that because there's going to be a little bit of shavings on the blade. But after you're done with that, cutting's a breeze, and if cutting's a breeze, so is everything else. So first things first, with cabbage stew, is we're going to cut the cabbage. I like to take the first couple leaves off because those are leaves that everybody's been touching. And of course, I've given it a little bit of a rinse here already. So the way you core cabbage is you just cut it in half, just like that, and you core it. So what you do is you take this center part out of the cabbage. You kind of just cut it at a diagonal on either end, like this. And there you have it. All right. So for cabbage soup, you're going to want the cabbage to be in bite-sized pieces. So just go ahead, cut it in half again, and then just keep cutting it. Cut it lengthwise, and then turn it and cut it again. And there you have it. So we're going to do this for the rest of the cabbage. Just move it over to this side and keep on working on your other quarters. Another thing you might want to do with your knife is learn how to hold it. This is the knife here. A lot of people, they choke up or they lean back on it. They hold it like this. You actually want to kind of be over the top. Have your pointer finger and thumb right here. And that way you have full control over the knife at all times. All right? And you can really use your arms for all of its strength. If it's not perfect, any pieces of the core that you can still see, you might just want to toss to the side. All right, we're going to cut this up. All right, so now the cabbage is cut. Next thing, really with any soup that you start that's worth eating at least, you should really start with onion and garlic. All right, you really can't go wrong there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dice these up real quickly. What I do with the onion is I just cut off the ends. All right, and then that leaves me with the ability to then take the skin off of it. Make sure you don't get any of those skins in your soup. Nobody likes that. I take my garlic, I stand it up. This isn't like textbook, but this is what works for me. I stand it up, I cut it in half, and then I go like this. I cut it this way. And what you do is you make the onion work for you. You see how it has all the different layers in it. It's already pre-cut pretty much, so you just want to work with the onion. All right. So then you cut it the other way. Now you're going to want to make sure you don't cut your fingers off because that will make you go to the hospital, and at this time in your life it's probably not a good time to go. So we do that. Do the same thing over here. Again, keep your fingers out of the way on the cross cut. Sometimes what I like to do is just flip the onion over, and then I can just get the rest of it without cutting my finger off. That's the hardest part, not cutting your fingers off. No, I'm joking. All right, and so here we go. You're going to, of course, want garlic. This recipe that I was looking at doesn't even call for garlic, but you know what? I don't want to eat a soup that doesn't have garlic in it. Garlic also strengthens the immune system, so you can fight off any sort of coronavirus. What you see me do is I'm just smashing the garlic head with the flat side of the knife, and the skin just falls off. When I was a kid, I used to always cut my fingernails or underneath my fingernails trying to get the skin off, but this trick is super easy, and you don't have to worry about it. Again, same thing with the onion, but just a little bit finer. Again, if this is your first time cutting garlic, you're going to want to do this a little bit slower so you don't cut your fingers. Alright, so now you can just give that a fine kind of cut like this as well. This always helps cut the garlic. Alright. The onions are starting to get to my eyes, so here you might see me cry a little bit. Alright. Not crying because of how poorly this video is going, but crying because of the onions. Alright. So here's what we're going to do. So we have our cabbage, we have our onion, we have our garlic all cut up. Now we're going to start the soup. Okay? So I'm going to move the camera a little bit over this way. I think you can see the pot. It's right here over the stove. Okay, so I'm going to turn the heat on to medium high. All right, we're going to be working with butter here, so we don't want to turn it on all the way, or else then you're going to have burnt butter. You don't want that. So what you're going to do is you're going to we're going to do a little bit of olive oil and a butter mix. So you just take 1 teaspoon, tablespoon of butter, put it in your pan. All right. Just take I don't know, 2 teaspoons. That's kind of just about 2 little splashes of olive oil. We're gonna let that heat up a little bit here, and then we're gonna add our onion in. I always put the onion in first because the garlic is so small that when you put it in, if your pan's too hot, boom, your garlic is burnt. All right, and burnt garlic is not nearly as flavorful as well cooked garlic. Always work with a wooden spoon. That's what I do. I had a friend of mine, I told him to stir something. He used a plastic spoon, and the whole spoon melted into the soup before he even knew what was going on. So that's something you want to avoid. So here we are just waiting for the butter to melt. Here we go. Okay. So now what we should do is put in the onions. So here's the onions, and you can use your hands or you can use the side of the knife. I like using the side of the knife because it helps me just kind of cup all the ingredients and put it in the pot. Immediately you'll hear a nice sizzle. That's a good sign. Alright, go ahead and stir this up a little bit. Turn on some lights so we can see what we're doing. Alright, now the onions are going. We're going to wait a little bit on that. Next thing, while the onions are starting to cook, let's go ahead and measure out some of the spices. Today we're going to be using coriander, we're going to be using fennel, and we're going to be using cumin. Alright? So here's what we're going to do. I already measured them out. Here they are. As soon as we put the garlic in, we're going to put the spices in as well to kind of start the whole process. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get you to see what's going on. Let's put you over the microwave. And there we go. Alright, you see what's going on? Alright, let's hope we don't cloud up the lens here. But there we go. Onions are still looking a little fresh. We want them to be translucent, right? Now we're gonna put in some of the garlic. Just put that garlic right in there. Give it a little stir. Alright, you should smell heaven right now. That's what you're smelling. You're smelling heaven. You're smelling the onion and the garlic and butter. It doesn't get better than that. Well, hopefully by the end of the recipe, it will get a little bit better, but we'll see. Alright. We're going to let this go a little bit. We'll come back here in a second. Alright, let's check back on our onions here. You see what's happening here? You see this? I'm not sure if you can see it. But if you see it, it's starting to, the edges are starting to get a little bit more brown than the inside of the onion. That's a problem. That means we're too hot. We're too hot. We gotta turn it down. Turn this down. Alright, we want a more even cook. We want an even cook, make sure everything is getting along. Alright? Now, while this is happening, we can go ahead and throw in our spices, the coriander, the cumin, and the fennel. We're just going to put that in, give it a stir, and let this continue to cook here. And again, I'm just going to lower it a little bit. Alright? Alright, here we are. We're back. We're in business here, alright? The onions are starting to get a little translucent, nice and sauteed. This is good. All right. You can see there's a little bit of they're called brown bits here at the bottom. That's fine. That's fine. We just keep stirring it. Once we put some liquids in here, that's going to be fine. All right. So you can see the onions are not quite where we want them. However, we can leave it here for now, because now we're going to go ahead and put in the cabbage. Get the cabbage a little heat here before we put in the liquids. Now you might ask, why do we saute things before we put liquids in? Well, what you're doing is you're caramelizing all of the flavors. You're getting all the sugars in these vegetables to come alive, come to the foreground. And now we start the cooking process, whereas when we throw the liquids in, it's all over. It's all over. No caramelization is really going to happen that much further. And, alright. So there we go. We have the cabbage in. We're starting to stir it up. Make sure that those onions are not trapped on the bottom. If the onions are trapped on the bottom, they're just going to burn. And again, we don't want any burnt onions. So while that's going, let's just come over here and let's talk about broth. So we have, today we're going to use better than bouillon. What bouillon is usually, traditionally, it's like a cube of like spices and things like that to make a broth. This stuff is really good because it takes all that, but it incorporates kind of the paste that you want in order to easily make a broth. Now, of course, if you have the time and you have like some an old chicken bones laying around, and you have some vegetables, make yourself a broth. It could take an hour or two, but it's very hands-off, right? So here you have better than bouillon. The directions say you're using a teaspoon for every cup of water. Here we're going to use 4 cups of water, so that's 4 teaspoons. But 3 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon. So I just like to measure less because I'm not a measurer. All my friends will say, can you send me a recipe? And I can send them a recipe, but I'm always changing things. So we'll see. So there's a 1 tablespoon, which is 3 teaspoons. And here is the 4th one, okay? Now what I'm doing here is I'm just going to put it all in this 2 cup measuring cup, and then we're going to go ahead and fill it up. So the second time it's just going to be water, but there's enough seasoning in the first measurement that we're going to be okay. All right. So here we go. This is 2 cups, and we stir it up. We want the better than bouillon to get going. All right. You want to make sure that it's becoming great here. All right. Great bouillon. All right. So here we are back at the pot. Alright. Things are still cooking. We give it a stir. Alright. Now you have to understand, cabbage, it has a lot of water in it, but it's not as watery as, say, lettuce or spinach, right? So it's not going to shrink up like you would expect. Maybe with when you're sauteing some spinach, you can put a whole bag of spinach in and it's gone. But cabbage is a little bit more hardy. So that's going to give it a little bit more strength in the cooking process. So you can have a cabbage soup. You can't have a spinach soup, huh? I mean, you can put some spinach in a soup, but you can't have a spinach soup. This is a cabbage soup. Alright. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. It sounded a little sad. You want your vegetables to be singing a little bit. By singing, I mean sizzling. There we go. You can hear it now. That's good. Go ahead and try to clean up here a little bit. Alright. Before we go ahead and put the broth in, now we're going to put some tomatoes in. Alright. Now this recipe is going to call for whole peeled tomatoes, and you don't have to go through the process of blanching your own tomatoes and peeling them yourself. That's a headache. So what you do is you get these. Now at ShopRite right now, because of the coronavirus, they're very difficult to get, but these are perfect to have in your pantry, in your basement like I do, right? And so what you're going to do is you're just going to throw them in, all right? You don't need to do anything with them, because through the cooking process, these tomatoes are going to break up real nice. Alright, you see, now of course I said through the cooking process, but you can see I'm breaking them up a little bit here with my spoon too. Because you know what? Sometimes the cooking process needs a little help, you know? Now if you're using broth without any salt, you're going to need to add salt. I think better than bouillon has a good amount of salt in it, so I don't need to worry about that. Alright, because it's going to be salty enough through the broth. Alright, look at that. Alright. Now it's looking a little dry. Now whenever I see food looking a little dry, you got to do 2 things. You got to add some liquid into it, and you should probably add some liquid into yourself too. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to go and grab a beer. Alright, now that I took a drink, let's have the food take a drink. And we're adding 4 cups of broth right there. Look at that. Alright. Now you can see there's still some down here. Now we have to fill this up again, so this is perfect. There we go. With soups, you don't have to worry about measuring too much because it's a soup, all right? Because more liquid, if there's too much liquid, you boil some out, you know, and then you don't have to worry about that. Now, because I'm not adding any more water, and I'm going to make sure I get all the better than bouillon out, or else you're going to have a bland soup. And bland soups don't win soup contests. Nope. Alright, so here we go, mixing it all up. You can see now it's looking like a soup, huh? You might say, hey, it's a little dry, but I'll tell you what, these pieces of cabbage here are going to shrink up real good, get nice and flexible. Tomatoes are going to break up. The onions are going to make everything else happy. Now here's the thing, here's what I don't see in here. You need some pepper. You need some pepper. Everything needs pepper. Everything. Alright? So here, I go with a pepper grinder because you can really get a lot of pepper. You see, this pepper grinder here is not twist. To get a twist one, you break your wrists. This one, you just turn. Look at all this pepper, huh? Look at this. Huh? See all that pepper? All right. Mix that up. Now that's it. That's it. Now we're gonna let it sit for like 45 minutes. We're gonna let this sit for 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how hungry we are. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe we don't want to do any work tomorrow. So we make this tonight. Make this tonight. Eat it tomorrow. It's even better. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this hang out. I'm gonna let it hang out. If it gets a little dry, I might put some more water in it. I might put a lid on it a little bit to give it a little bit of time. Okay, I'm going to let it come to a boil first. That's important. That's something I forgot to tell you. I'm going to let this come to a boil, these liquids, and then once it comes to a boil, I'm going to put it on low. Then it's going to simmer, and that's what we're going to do for 45 minutes. If you don't bring it to a boil first, it's going to take so long to get up to a boil, and then you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Then you're eating at dinner at 9, 10, 12 o'clock. All right. Yes. So that's it for now. We'll check back in with it when it's done. Thanks for listening to my first time cooking on a camera here. Here we are back in the kitchen. About 45 minutes later. Let's go check on the soup right now. All right, here's the soup. You can see the tomatoes have broken down, and the cabbage has got nice and soft. And so this is going to make a really excellent soup. You can really smell the coriander coming out. And we're going to enjoy. Have a good one. Well, that was really good. You can trust me. If you liked this video, if you found it interesting, if you learned something, feel free to like it, make a comment below. Feel free to share it. And maybe I'll do it again, and we can cook together sometime. Have a good one, and stay safe.